Mike Owens here. Today I'm joined by Drew Dober, who returns to action, UFC 288, facing Matt Frevola in Newark, New Jersey. Drew, great to sit down and chat. How are things for you today?
Oh, great. Fantastic. I got some planned violence scheduled with a dude that's a willing dance partner. I'm feeling peak performance. Training's going well. Weight's coming down. Man, I got nothing to complain about. I'm super excited.
You're always excited for a fight. That's one thing I love when we do these pre-fight interviews. The energy that you give off prior to a fight night is always infectious. What was your first reactions to the offer of Matt Frevola?
I mean, I had my eye on him for a little while just because, man, he's a gamer. He swings heavy. You know, he gets get those knockouts. Man, he's a fun fighter. And I was kind of looking at those ranked fights, those guys in the top 15, top 10, and man, they're all playing hard to get. And I'm not above fighting anybody. I'm just trying to stay active. And Matt Frevola is a willing dance partner. And yeah, I'm just really excited to showcase some good violence to the fans.
I know that you threw your hat into to fight Jalen Turner when his fight against Dan Hooker fell out. Obviously, they went with the higher ranked Mateus Gamrot. Was there anything there, the potential rebooking with Jalen Turner after he lost that close fight against Gamrot?
Yeah. I mean, I thought he looked real good striking wise against Gamrot. Man, I don't know, kind of like, I wouldn't say bad blood, but I was a little disheartened that he kind of just discredited my name because I wouldn't take a fight in 3 weeks notice. But I don't know. We'll see. Like, I always do this thing where I think about like who's next and who do we want to fight and who do we want to call out like on the mic. And to be honest, like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't really matter that much to me. From Islammakhachev to all the way down, like, it doesn't matter to me. And so, like, I think I'm just done calling out names because nobody's special in my eyes. Like, I'm like, if you have a left hand and a right hand and willing to engage, like, we'll fight, whatever.
What are your thoughts on the actual matchup? Like, give me your X's and O's scouting report of Matt Frevola. What does he do well? Where do you think are potential areas for you to exploit?
Oh man, he's tough. He's tough. He can take a shot. He can give a shot. He stays in your face for the full 15 minutes. And I think probably the cool thing is he doesn't seem to get tired. Like he stays in it the entire time. So I know he's bringing in a firefight, and I just need to be the more polished fighter.
You mentioned there about Matt Frevola being in it 100% of the time. I'm going to caveat that by saying 2 of Matt's 3 losses were first round knockouts with Polo Reyes and obviously the 7 seconds against Terence McKinney. When you're looking at the tape and you're looking at those 2 losses that he suffered, obviously with the big left hand that we know you have and the power obviously in both hands, does that give you confidence that you can potentially get him out of there in a similar fashion?
I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't been thinking about it. The mistake I made against Brad Riddell was I went into the fight knowing that I was going to knock him out. And then I found his chin in the first round. We didn't seal the deal. He made adjustments, and I was kind of like stuck in that first round, right? Yeah. And the mistake was like I came into that fight with a preconceived notion that I knew how the fight was going to go, right? And it didn't go that way, and then we failed that time around. Now, with my fights with like Nasrat, Bobby Green, Alexander Hernandez, like I came in with that like intention of like, we got to fight for the full 15 minutes. Like Bobby Green does not get knocked out. Like he's super hard to like hit. So we went in with like, we're just going to fight for 15 minutes and we'll see how it goes. So I don't look at Matt Frevola's losses. I look at his wins. I look and see like what makes him special, fantastic. Like what's going to excite him and excite me in this fight. And yeah, I'm not really thinking about the way he loses, and I'm not thinking about the power in my hands. I'm thinking about like, we're going to have to touch him up for the full 15.
No, that makes total sense. And I kind of, with that being said, Drew, when you've suffered, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, but when you've suffered losses in the UFC, a lot of people have took the tactic of trying to get you to the ground and trying to use their jiu-jitsu. We think of Dariush, we think of Makhachev in recent memory. With that being said, there's a high likelihood that Matt Frevola won't do that. He'll try and bang it out with you as best he can. So with that being said, is there only one way this fight can go? And if that is the case, how much does that excite you?
Oh, it's super exciting. Like if that fight happens to where it's a stand-up round with 4-ounce gloves, or a stand-up fight with 4-ounce gloves on, like I'm all ready for that. But man, training camp, specific fights, opponents, all that stuff, I've just been focusing on me and what I need to do, and I'm trying to recover from those losses. And like we all know that, like I like throwing hands, I like striking, I love my boxing and all that stuff. But I know I'm gonna have to fight a grappler, you know, Arman, Beneil, Islam. Like these guys are in my way to that title. And I've been working on my wrestling. I've been working on my jujitsu. We're increasing those attributes and those weapons. And man, I can be really dangerous on the ground as well. Now we're just, you know, gonna eventually find the opponent that's gonna showcase that.
Of course. As a man who loves fighting in a crowd and is obviously a crowd favorite, are you anticipating a hostile crowd? This is very close to Matt Frevola's home territory.
No, I don't think so. I think Matt and I have like the same fans. I think what he brings, I also bring, and so I think we share a lot of fans. And so I think the crowd, which by the way, I'm so excited that we're not in the Apex, we're in front of a crowd, is going to bring, you know, that energy back. And yeah, I think they're gonna cheer for me as much as they do Matt. I think we're just like the crowd's gonna go nuts. I mean, I definitely know why we're the featured bout, and we're gonna showcase some beautiful violence.
I think if memory serves, your last 4 fights have alternated crowd, Apex, crowd, Apex. So can you? We've seen a lot of fighters who over the last 3-4 years have been all in the Apex. We've seen a lot of fighters over the last few years have been all in the arenas. So can you just talk to me about what the main differences are between the 2 separate venues?
Man, that Apex is brutal. I draw a lot of energy from the crowd. I love this sport. I love talking about it, you know, being all in it. I love the lights, the music, the crowd. I mean, before the UFC, you know, I wouldn't even hang out in the locker room. I would hang out in the crowd until it was time to like tape my hands. Like I love it so much. So that Apex is just like lackluster. It's just like, you know, like you get that walkout song where you don't have the cheers and like all that stuff. And I don't know. That might be a reason why I don't have good first rounds in the Apex. So yeah, it's fingers crossed we don't have to do it again.
It's very interesting that you mentioned that, Drew, that your kind of love for the moment, because we see a lot of high profile fighters. The one that's coming to mind is Donald Cerrone, who struggled to cope at that moment. And I speak to a lot of fighters who talk about that pre-fight nerves that they get and how they just want to run out to the arena. So can you speak to your love for that specific moment? Like, why do you think that you relish and you enjoy that moment before fight night, or that fight night so much?
I mean, like to relate to the other fighters, like, yeah, I get nervous. You know, there's always those jitters and stuff like that. But what brings me comfort is being the entertainer and being able to perform martial arts on the largest stage in the world. Like that's what like gives me that vibration internally, like that excitement. And that's what I love. And the memory that, you know, serves me the best is when I was scheduled to fight Jamie Varner, you know, former WEC champion. The guy's a monster. I was like petrified in the locker room, right? And I was like, oh man, like I know what this guy's capable of, and I'm nervous. And we get out to the pit, which was like right before they call your name out and you do the walk to the octagon. And I stood there and they go on a commercial break. And so I'm like standing in that what seemed to be like 20 minutes. Like I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm nervous, I'm nervous. But then I looked through those curtains and I saw the crowd, I saw the lights, I saw the octagon, I heard the music, and I'm like, wait, like I love doing this. This is what I love. So who cares if I win or lose? Like I'm just gonna get in there and I get to perform against the best guy in the world. Like this is exciting. And like that moment kind of took all the nerves away. So it's just yeah, I'm petrified in the locker room. But as soon as I see that crowd and hear the voices, like it's just it's I feel like a rock star. Like this is what I love doing.
And in a similar vein, the fans obviously love to see you fight, Drew. So I suppose that's very much a mutual relationship. I just want to touch on something very quickly because there was a lot of rumours about this card that the potential of the Paddy Pimblett fight may have been offered. I know there was rumours certainly back and forth, certainly online as well. Just want to know, was that fight offered to you on this card at all?
It was not offered because I feel like there's another party that wanted to say an immediate no. I'm not a fight that Paddy wants. Like it's just not on the table for him, right? So the UFC doesn't want it, Paddy doesn't want it, nobody wants it. I'm the only one that wants it, and the internet, right? So like it was a fantasy matchup because I think Paddy just became a heel, right? And people just want to see him get knocked out, and I'm notorious for killing hypes. So it was an internet-made fantasy, which I agree to. I mean, I hit up the UFC. I said, if we're thinking about this, I'm all for it. But no, it was an official offer, unfortunately.
What do you think the UFC do next with Paddy? Like, obviously, I'm not going to ask you for a prediction between a fight and yourself. You'll obviously say probably KO in the second round. But what do you anticipate that the UFC do next with Paddy, especially coming off that very contentious Jared Gordon win?
In my opinion, I think they're gonna put him with an unranked, seasoned grappler. I think him fighting another grappler will just showcase his abilities and give him enough time to improve his stand-up, right? We saw a bunch of holes in his last fight, whether you think he won or not. There were some holes, and I think the UFC really wants to keep pushing him. So I think it's just going to be a seasoned grappler that, Paddy can continue improving and then showcase what he's already good at, which is creative jiu-jitsu.
No, that makes total sense. And I guess kind of speaking about grapplers, seasoned grapplers, the point you raised there, I want to talk about what was meant to be the co-main event on this card. It's looking like it's now going to be pushed back into June. But Charles Oliveira is still going up against Beneil obviously a former opponent and one of those names in Dariush for you, Drew. So how do you think that fight would play out given the stakes at the top of the division?
Yeah, I'm a huge Beneildariush fan. And he's so underrated and deserving of much more. And I don't know why the UFC seems to hate Beneil, right? But man, he has the best chance of beating Islammakhachev. He's so talented. I think Beneil is gonna beat Charles Oliveira. And I think he deserves that title shot. I like me personally, he's the number one contender right now. I don't think anyone's ahead of him. But man, I just keep hearing these rumors and these articles of just the hate on Beneil, and I just think it's outrageous. And yeah, so you just count me in for Beneil beating Charles and beating Islam.
I know 12 months ago, the last time we spoke, you literally quoted to me saying that you 100% believe that Islammakhachev will be the champion. And I think coming off that Bobby Green loss, Islam was in a much different position then than what he is now, 12, 13 months removed. So what have you made of the last year, in Islam's career, specifically the Oliveira and Volkanovski fights?
Yeah, I think in MMA, regardless of who you are, you're going to be figured out. I mean, we see it with champions all the time. Like, you can't do the same thing over and over and over and expect to, nobody's going to figure it out. So Volkanovski showcased a lot of success against Islam, right? And I think now the lightweight division is kind of drooling at their mouths right now, and they want to take advantage of that opportunity too. So Islammakhachev needs to bring something else to the table to kind of maintain that number one spot. But yeah, I mean, he's got Beneil in his way. Yeah, the fight that needs to happen is Islammakhachev against Beneil, and Beneil's a forever growing and evolving fighter. Like knockouts, submissions, like wrestling, and he's got it all. And Islam needs to bring something more to the table if he wants to stay on top.
Were you surprised, that Volkanovski did so well against Islam, or did you anticipate that he would do so well at the divisional?
Very surprised. Very surprised. Yeah, I didn't think Volk was capable of doing all that. And yeah, I was watching that fight like a fan. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this has happened. It's amazing. And then when that fight was over, man, I had my notebook out. I was taking down notes. Like, I was like, oh, so that's the way it's supposed to be done. Okay. So man, we took those notes and we're practicing it now. So I definitely took a lot from Volkanovski in that fight.
No, that makes total sense. Last fight I want to talk about, and then I want to move the conversation back to yourself, is obviously the Ultimate Fight has taken place. Two coaches in your division. And the reason why I want to get your opinion is because when I speak to people about Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, the opinions are just completely split. Some people think McGregor in one, some people think Chandler in one, and everything you can imagine in between. So where are your predictions on that, on what is a massive fight in the lightweight division?
My prediction, as of now, I have Michael Chandler winning. Not winning spectacularly. I don't think it's going to be like a big thing, but I just don't think the decisions of Conor McGregor is going to complement his fighting style. he fell in love with boxing, and he was very flat-footed against Dustin Poirier, and then now with, man, he's put on some size, and I don't think that's going to complement his fighting style. So I just don't think that the decisions that Conor's making is going to showcase a better Conor in his next fight. And Michael Chandler is he gets better every time. And yeah, if this fight happens, which again, it's all up in the air, I have Michael Chandler looking like the superior fighter in this one.
100%. To end the conversation back to yourself, I was scrolling through your Instagram before we jumped on, Drew. If memory serves, you are due to have a girl in the not too distant future, a baby girl.
Oh yeah. So yeah, after May 6th, I'm full dad mode.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I just started the podcast with Rob Font, who's just become a father back in December. So we're titling him Papa Font after his big win over Adrian Yanez and the dad power that he may have gained from that experience. So what are your opinions on the upcoming birth of your daughter and how that will affect your fighting career?
Man, there's going to be some significant changes, and I don't know what they're going to be. It was funny. I was talking to my mother, and my mother was like, all right, so after this fight with Matt, who are we calling out? What are we going to do next? Like, who's going to be next? I'm like, I got to figure out this whole baby situation. Like, life is going to change, and it's going to be better for sure. But man, like, I don't know if it's going to be dad's strength. I don't know if Drew Dober is going to become a wrestler. Like, some significant changes are going to be going to happen. But personally, I think just this motivation, like I'm no longer feeding just me anymore. Like I'm feeding another person. So when it comes to, you think this chin is a granite right now, wait till I'm fighting for a little girl. Like nobody's going to put me out.
100%, 100%. And that kind of brings me on to the last point I want to talk about, because I saw an Instagram post you put on a couple of weeks ago, and you quoted fighting, and I quoted, the constant search for self-improvement. So going into this fight just over 2 weeks away, what does that quote mean in relation to this fight and the future of Drew Dober in the lightweight division?
Yeah, it's really hard to describe it in a pinpoint answer. But fighting is a search of self-improvement always. It's, from the beginning of just when your next paycheck is, how you can just grow up to be a man and be a warrior and a gladiator, and like how you can improve constantly. Now, currently, it's like, with my losses against Islam and Beneil and Brad Riddell, like we got to be a better and different fighter every single time, right? So this fight with Matt Frevola, we're bringing in some new weapons, and then the fights after that, we're gonna run into a grappler. So we're gonna bring in more weapons every single time, and that's constant improvement. So that way, when I win the title, get close to the title, like I'm gonna be a far different fighter than I was in the past, right? But it exceeds just the octagon. It's now like being a father, being a husband, being a brother, son, friend, all the above. Like I'm constantly searching on how I can be a better person every single day. And at the end of the day, man, these fights are just going to be stories I tell my grandchildren, and they're going to be annoyed by them and not care, right? So fighting is just that, fighting for your next paycheck, fighting against Matt Frevola, fighting for like love, fighting to be a better parent, fighting for just recognition. And, like it's just constantly searching to improve your current position,
I love that, and I think that's a perfect place for us to end on what was a fantastic interview. Drew, it truly is always a place to get your time. I absolutely love speaking with you, and I cannot wait to see you back in action at UFC 288 in just over a couple of weeks' time. So best of luck with the rest of training camp. If we don't speak before, wish the best of luck for fight night.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on too.